Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you the top 5 spells in Wuchang Fallen Feathers. Now some of these spells actually are progressions of each other. For example, using that spell there, which is one of the last spells in the game that you get with the Echo of Xuanyangzi here, you actually get a spell at the very start of the game that functions much the same with the Echo of Bingzhang. And later on you get the Echo of Honglan, which is kind of like the Pokemon stage 1, 2, 3. Another example is the ethereal form spell here, and its late game counterpart, the Echo of Bo Magus, which lets you resist 3 attacks instead of just 1. Now I do think the Echo of Xuanyangzi is one of the strongest spells in the game, and this can trigger alacrity. It gives you that jumping attack I showed at the start of the video. And the Echo of Bingzhang I think is kind of like an honorable mention because it does much the same. It triggers the alacrity while you're active casting. And on top of this, if you're fighting Honglan commander form at the start of the game, this spell is extremely useful there. On top of this, the Echo of Bingzhang is useful through the entire game because you get a really large range with this. You do jump back too, so it's good if you need a little bit of mobility, but you can snipe anything basically with this. So great jump away there, targets that are far away, and even the birds that you find, you can target with this. I'd recommend exploring with a one-handed sword because that gives you the Skyborn Might generation. But if you happen to get into a fight close range and you need a bit of distance, you can use this to distance yourself. It's almost like a dodge, and then you'll trigger alacrity as you saw there if that happens while you're spellcasting you get hit. So very useful. And then later on the Echo Xuanyangzi here, which you can see is just a stronger version of that, giving you the jump back as well. Its range isn't as high, it's more of a closer range spell, but you see you got that big jump there and much higher damage. So these two are featherings, and they do have a bit of scaling here. So this one scales 3 in your feathering, and this one scales 6 in your feathering. So again, similar to their kind of evolutionary stage there. And then the Echo of Honglan has a 5 scaling in feathering. So these are kind of my first, I guess, of the 5. They are a kind of a grouping, I would say, because they all function much the same. They can give you that alacrity there. You got this jump attack, and you got a feathering style attack. It just kind of comes down to personal preference because their costs are a little bit different. So depending on which you want to employ in your strategy, you got 2 costs, 2 costs, and 2 costs here, I guess. So it just depends where you're at in the game and what your purposes are, but triggering alacrity while casting is really nice. So that is I would say, the strongest spell in the game throughout the early phases with Bingzhang, and New Game Plus was the Xuanyangzi. Now fire damage and burn buildup is extremely powerful in Wuchang Fallen Feathers, as a lot of bosses are weak to it. Burning Flames is an early game spell, gives you alacrity similar to the previous spells there. I think that later on Infernal Flames is a little bit better, and also the Echo of Dhutanga is one of the first that you can get. And what's really useful about this is that it gives you the obliterate. So if you do this at the enemy's backside, you can set up a critical hit. This is a 2 scaling in magic, this is a 3, and this is a 1. So early game you'd use the Burning Flames and then progress to the Echo of Dhutanga or Infernal Flames, depending if you want to do it at range or up close. Now the Burning Flames looks like this. You get a jump back and you do a little fire casting like that. It has some pretty good range. You can set up burn typically, but the this one here gives you even the long range, but much better burn buildup, and it can come out quicker, and you can kind of spam cast it like that if you want to. And with this has a 70 burn buildup, and this is 30, although I find that the Burning Flame sets it up a little quicker. It just has a 3 Skyborn Might cost versus the 2. And then Echo Dhutanga is absolutely crazy at close range, especially against bosses. If you go ahead here, you can break posture of enemies. The range is a bit short, so you want to use it at close range, and there's a bit of a wind-up, but you can set up burn. Now, if you can sneak up behind an enemy, sometimes you can get really lucky with your hits off on this. So with this, you really want to try and get the obliterate off like that, or on certain humanoid enemies, it's going to be a little bit easier. Certain bosses have a lot more posture damage, so yeah, you want to get in close with this. I forgot that enemy was absolutely crazy, but yeah, against some other enemies, like humanoid types, you can get the critical hit off from the backside. My personal preference, though, is to use the Infernal Flames here. Just the range is really nice on that, so you can pop this from a safe distance, and it's good because you can get Skyborn Might and then set up the burn, typically with 2 or 3 masks. And this is great because when an enemy is burned, it's going to take more damage from your attacks, and then also it's pretty easy to just pop that down at any given moment because it doesn't have a very long casting time, so this can be extremely effective just due to how good burn is in Wuchang Fallen Feathers. A good weapon to pair this with is the Flamebringer longsword. With a fire temperament, you can create a huge fire explosion right up close on enemies and then cast your fire spells from a distance. This is super useful against certain bosses like the tiger and the dragon. Now, last 2 is kind of a stack of 3 just because I feel like it's appropriate to give ones for different stages of the game as you get into the later stages in New Game Plus. But the 2 best here are ethereal form and its evolution, the Echo of Bo Magus. Now, this has a 1 cost, it protects you from 1 attack, and you got about 5 seconds to utilize that. With the Echo of Bo Magus, you get 3 attacks basically, and it gives you invincibility. So the thing with the ethereal form is you kind of do a little dodge. It's almost like if you played Elden Ring Night Rain and the Wilder passive, where if you get hit, you dodge it. This one basically gives you like power armor, so you can just continually keep attacking through it, or hyper armor. You can combo, and this is especially effective if you're going in some bosses with weaker posture, because you can use something like the Empyrean Great Axe, which has a skill that lets you close the distance on enemies with their Empyrean Crash, so you can chase down bosses while you have this shield on. You can still dodge with it, but the nice thing is with an axe and this spell is you can charge heavy, and typically if the boss is going to be attacking, you can sometimes get some easy backstabs off that way. This is also incredible on a Twin Blades build if you have the Leech Temperaments, because you can just spam R1 with the Echo of Bo Magus popped up occasionally, and your Leech Temperaments, every time that you get attacks on a boss, you'll be healing yourself, so you can just face tank with that and the Echo of Bo Magus. You can tell that you have the Echo of Bo Magus on because you'll see the shield around your character, and then with the ethereal form, whenever you cast it, you get these little cards like Naruto there, and it lasts for about 5 seconds until they wear off. Whereas with the Echo of Bo Magus, you can see there, the shield just persists indefinitely. Now, there's actually multi-hit attacks in this game, and they're different for different areas. So I'll showcase all of these and show you my favorites. So there's the Lotus Soulflame, the Echo of the Giant Centipede, the Giant or Golden Scepter here, and the Echo of the Bo Sorcerer. This is the one. This one here does Frostbite build up 30, and the rest are all magic damage, with a 1 scaling of magic for the Great Centipede, 6 scaling for the Golden Scepter, and 5 scaling for Lotus Soulflame, with the Echo of the Bo Sorcerer being a 4 scaling. So depending on where you're at in the game, they're going to have different usefulnesses here, but against certain bosses that are large in size, we can get real close. And then we're just going to cast this, and the funny thing is it's going to do a really nice multi-hit on the boss, just like that. 3,000 damage for the Lotus Soulflame. The Giant Centipede here we'll use. You don't have to be as close when you cast this one, but you can see there it does a decent bit of damage. This does have a long casting time, a little bit less damage. And then the Golden Scepter here, which is also a very large cast time, so you want to have the option that gives you the ability to cast this while you're and not get staggered. And then the Echo of the Bo Sorceress, which has the longest range here. You create these ice pellets, and yeah, you can see them there. They shoot out and build up the frostbite on the target. So yeah, I think that the Lotus Soulflame ends up being the highest burst damage against especially bosses that are large in size, because if you go up and hug the boss and just cast it like this, there's spells like this in Elden Ring that were very effective, and you can see there you're able to get a posture break off with that. So yeah, insane amounts of damage at close range, only on specific bosses though, so I have a couple recommendations here. So if you're going to be using this against a large boss, the Lotus Soulflame likely the best there, just multi-hit similar to the bubble horns from Elden Ring. And the Echo of Bo Sorceress is going to be incredible too. Make sure you have the skill tree that gives you the 4 costs instead of 5. It's a lot better. So yeah, large boss, use Lotus Soulflame. Golden Scepter is really good too against single targets. I would actually probably prefer this unless the boss has a strong weakness to Frostbite. Use the Golden Scepter. And you'll see a long cast time though, it's the only downside. So if you have the Echo of Bo Magus, that can be nice as well. I think this is a tie between Golden Scepter and the Lotus Soulflame on large bosses, with the honorable mention going to the Echo of Bo Sorceress. Now for some honorable mentions, the Echo of Vermilion Feathers is very useful if there's incoming spells, so if you're going against any other boss like the Demon of Obsession or anything else is going to cast at you, and especially into New Game Plus, this will absorb the spells and then send it right back at them, doing a ton of damage. The feathering with 6 scaling and feathering, the Echo of Vermilion Feathers is one of the last spells you're going to get, but a very effective one. I can't put it at like I wouldn't want to put it on this list because it's not going to be always effective against bosses, but very useful when it is. The Echo of Xuanyangzi here gives you large lightning damage and paralysis build of 100. It also has a 5 scaling in magic, and you get this from one of the hardest boss fights in the game. We also have the Echo of Wuchang here. Now, what this is really good for is against certain bosses like the Bo Sorceress, you can use this to kind of stun her and then get another posture break off. If you do an obliterate attack, like a charge heavy from behind, there is a bit of a cooldown before you can do that again, and this spell seemingly refreshes that, so you can actually kind of cheese some bosses. I had a good experience with it in my first playthrough, because you can use this, again, stunning the Bo Sorceress to get those charge heavy attacks off. And what I think to be the most strong spell in the game is the Demonbane Strike here. So massive feathering damage. It has a 6 scaling in feathering. It requires 3 Skyborn Might, and it can knock down humanoid type bosses, especially the Demon of Obsession. It absolutely cheeses that boss fight because she gets knocked down from this spell really easily. If you're having a hard time with certain bosses, just try this out. You can see there, it's not only funny because it knocks them flying up into the sky, but on some boss fights that you normally can't get a lot of extra hits in, this is a really useful one to use. The damage is high, and the range that you get from using this is pretty nice too, because you do a lunge forwards, but it's mainly got that incredible scaling and feathering, so the further you go into the feathering tree, you're going to get obviously better results, and it pairs well with a lot of other weapons in this game too. If I was playing through New Game Plus, my spell list would look something like this, with the Demonbane Strike, Echo of Bo Magus, the Echo Xuanyangzi for range, and then the Crimson Edge incantation. I know I didn't include this on this list, but it gives you a bit of health back, and if you're doing a magic build, obviously Vorpal Blade being a very good cost-effective option, especially if you're using a one-handed sword. So let me know what you think to be the most powerful spell in Wuchang Fallen Feathers, and hit the subscribe button below if you haven't already. Have a great day.